Welcome back, and today we're going to go over some stuff here in the workshop and over the years the different things that I've come up with, and one thing in particular is a blower system or a vacuum system that I use here in the workshop that I think I showcased in my very first video that we did. And what I've done is I've taken it from being mobile to mounting it and making it even better. Also, pay attention to the video because there's some things in here that there's some tips, some tricks, some things that I've done over the years. And also, I've got a set of drill bits that I'd be willing to bet that a lot of you have never seen before. And I just came across them here last year and absolutely love them. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Today, we're going to talk about this Harbor Freight blower dust collector system that I made. I've shown it in I think my very first video that I did and how I use it in here in the shop. But today we're going to do a little upgrade with it. It is on a mobile cart and moves around throughout the shop. Can hook it to the different pieces of attachments I made. And it normally sits over here against the wall. And then all my welding that I do over in this area, or powder coating or painting or grinding or anything like that. So I got to thinking, why not make this thing a little bit more permanent and mount it to the wall somehow. So last evening I spent most of the evening welding up a framework to mount this thing on the wall right up here. And the way that will work is the exhaust will come down to the window unit that I made to blow it out the window, and then the other tube will just come down and I'll be able to attach it to whatever I'm doing at the time, whether it's, like I said, powder coating, painting, grinding, anything like that. So I'm gonna have to remove this from the cart. I plan to still keep it on these springs that I made for this thing, and those springs are mainly just vibration dampening. I like to take a spray wax, and whether it's this brand or anything, but this is just a quick spray wax. And after I spray paint something, I like to put a coat of spray wax on it before I start hanging it or messing with it. And what that does is it puts a little bit of a coating on it, and it gets rid of that soft paint feel, or easily scratched paint feel, if you will. But put a coat of spray wax on something after you paint it. It really makes a huge difference in the durability, and also if you're a day later wanting to handle the thing. Did want to make a quick mention about these drill bits that I'm using. They're a Vortex point, made in the USA. Believe it or not, I picked them up on Amazon. But what these are is the tip of every drill is almost like its own little step drill bit. Comes to a sharp point there. And one of the biggest advantages I see with using this style of drill bit versus a conventional drill bit is when you're drilling through steel, it starts off with that little tapered point, starts cutting, gets bigger and bigger. You don't have that right when you're ready to break through the piece of steel where it bites and basically rips the drill right out of your hands. These actually allow it to cut just about all the way through, just like a step drill bit would. So I would highly recommend picking up a set of these things. And I know the question is, well, how do you sharpen them? Well, I guess the point is you don't sharpen the fluted portion of it. The only thing you could really sharpen would be the very tip of it, and that's really all you need to get this thing going and get it started into a piece of steel. But they're really good for steel. They're really good for wood too, because they don't have a huge breakout on the back side where it would splinter or chip the wood out when you're drilling through. One thing I forgot to mention about these drill bits is not only do they have the really neat point on the end of it, but it also has the 3 flats on it, and that helps the helps to completely eliminate it spinning in the drill chuck. So that right there, those two really make it nice. Again, Vortex point, made in the USA. Right there's got my vote. I'm gonna go ahead and mount this frame up on the wall up here where I pre-drilled the holes and everything. So I've got it mounted up on the wall here, and you guys are probably wondering why it looks like that. Well, because this blower, as it sits right here, will not work sitting upright up there, because it would put the, if it was sitting upright, it would put the inlet against the wall up here, and the blower would be facing towards the exhaust that goes out the window, but I can't have this against the wall. So I physically have to flip and rotate this entire unit. I'm still going to mount it with the springs under here for the dampening of the unit itself, but as you see, when we get it up here, I'll have the whole unit flipped over so the inlet comes out this way and the exhaust goes out that way, and then I just tie it right into this window. And as you see right now, that's how I do it with the air conditioner, the portable air conditioner. My exhaust goes out there. So we're gonna go ahead and get this mounted up. But like I said, it hangs upside down, so I had to use the upper support rails going that way instead of having them come from the bottom up. That way it gives me the room for the unit to hang here and there's no obstructions in the way. And then I mounted it with 3 studs, mounted it with 3 bolts into the stud here, and then I mounted it sideways into the garage door stud there. And then we'll have a plug or an outlet here or here that I can use for that blower, and it gets it off the floor and out of the way, constantly trying to trip over the hoses and the cord and everything. So that was one of the main reasons for hanging it up there, because it put it close to the exhaust, puts it close to an outlet, and then it puts it close to my work area here where I'm doing all the welding and fabricating. So I've already undone all the bolts underneath this. That comes up off of there. And like I said, this stand normally would sit like this, or however you want it, as it sits on the ground. But with the port going out this side of it, that puts it in the wrong direction to exhaust it out the window, but it puts the inlet on the right side. So I have to take and flip this thing upside down, and now my inlet is on the correct side and my exhaust port is going out the correct side towards that window. So I'm going to go ahead and enlist the hand of my son to give me some help in mounting this thing up here and throw a couple nuts on this thing while we get it mounted up. So let me throw you guys on the tripod and we'll get her up there. Alright, now you can see I've got the blower mounted up here. The inlet side is here, the exhaust is here, and I'll show you, I'm going to have a short little line coming over to this, and then I'll show you my flex line that goes from here down to the pieces of equipment. And like I said, when you have a small workshop, you're always trying to find ways to utilize space, and I'm hoping that this works out very well for me. So we'll go ahead and get some hoses mounted up and show you what it looks like. All right, so I'm going to take this cover off that I used for the air conditioning portion of it. And because it needed a 5-inch hole, I didn't want to directly hook it up to a 4-inch. So when I take this off, you'll see I've got two 4-inch exhausts there through the window itself, and that helps alleviate any pressure buildup. Allen wrench, I've got a magnet on the back of that, so I never have to go looking for an Allen wrench. And then the controller for the air conditioner is just Velcroed on here. So unscrew this, get the 4 bolts undone on it, and then that pulls off. You can see the magnet, it's hot glued to the back of that. So usually in the summer months I leave this on the window unless I'm doing welding in here or I can't weld outside. Then I'll just pull this off and then hook my pipe to that, and I'll show you how that setup works there. All right, so I've got the original hose that I had, and this used to go down here and hook up to it on the floor, and I could move it around or whatever. But now it's a little long for the distance I need. I've only got about 2.5 feet here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut this hose and shorten it down about that much, so I can get that on there, and it's a direct exhaust out the window. Like you can see here, it's got the 2 ports on it, but I more than likely will not be using the closer one because it puts me in too tight of a bind here. So I'd rather use the one that's about 8 inches further away, and it allows me to maneuver that out a little bit. So when we get the blower hooked up, it doesn't blow a big loop in it. I'd like to keep that as straight as possible. So what I'm going to do is cut the hose and then just reattach this 4-inch Schedule 35 PVC back to this, and it just so happens that it fits perfectly around the end of that blower tube, so it makes it a quick uncouple if I want to take that back off. And if for some reason this ever started to wear over time, I could always just cut a little notch in here and then put a hose clamp on it so it gets a little bit of a crimp fit on there. But for now, we're going to take and shorten this loop out of here and just make it a direct hookup. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the hose and we'll be back. Okay, I've gone and shortened this piece now, which is the exhaust side of it. Now we're at about 2.5 feet long. I've got my elbow, my PVC, and you can see here, just push it in there and it's a snug fit, and hook it up to the blower end. So now I've got a nice out of the way hose that's really, it doesn't, you don't have to trip over or move it or anything. And the shorter the better on the exhaust, because it'll keep that pressure. And then I've got the original piece that I had made, and this couples to just about any one of the attachments that I've got, and I talked about it in my other video. But now it's a little bit better with being able to keep that blower up off the floor. So I'll do a quick hookup on the back of my dust box for grinding dust, and then I can take and just slide that in there, and it quick couples to that. Again, there's magnets in there that hold that on. And let's say I get done grinding and I want to go to welding, so now I can just move this over to my welding exhaust. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't want ductwork all through the shop. I don't want to have ports drop down or anything like that. And for me it works because this is where I do 99% of my fabrication or welding or anything like that. And with it being like this, I can still move my table around, move anything around in the shop, and not be in the way. So let's go ahead and turn this on real quick. One thing I wanted to show you guys is, rather than having to reach up to the switch that's up on the back side and sometimes hard to get to, I bought these things, and what they are is just a little rocker switch for a light or a blower or anything you want to use it for. Put that in there and plug it in here, and now that allows me just right here, instead of trying to reach up in there where I'm doing something, it allows me to go ahead and turn this on here and power the system. The other thing I did is, if you come around over here, you'll see that I did a little cord management now. Now I don't have a cord dangling or hanging down, so I just wrapped it around the leg of the blower, and I use these little Velcro cable ties, and they're actually very handy to have. I use them on all my power tools that have cords. And all it is just a Velcro tie that you can tie itself to the cord, and then you go through and you can wrap it around. It's like a zip tie, only multi-use. You can take it on and off as many times as you need. So now I've just got this short little cord here, so let's go ahead and turn it on. And now you can see it pulled up the hose because it's pulling a good vacuum on the system, and now any smoke that's created from welding, it gets exhausted out the window, or any dust or grinder grit, it also gets exhausted out the window, where it's no longer allowed to collect all through the garage. Alright, so earlier I gave you the little tip about holding a little plastic container up there with some tape when you're drilling something. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that, but the reality of it is now is I have very little mess to clean up, and I just take my handy little broom and dustpan on a stick and sweep up whatever last little remaining bits of garbage that were on the floor, and now I can just take and easily dump in the garbage can. So again, there's another little tip for you, is keep a dustpan and a broom, and specifically a dustpan with a handle on it, around your shop. It makes cleaning up quick messes real quick. And back to this blower setup, I actually really like this setup now because it's off the floor. It no longer has these hoses dangling from the floor up to where they're a trip hazard or where they're in my way. Now everything's up and out of the way, and when I'm done with it, I do plan on making something where I can hook this hose up, or to put a tube or whatever, kind of like I had back on that. And the same with this. I just remove it from the window and store them here. Maybe I'll make some kind of little cubby or shelf for these hoses up there. But as far as the blower up out of the way, it's a huge improvement over the way I used to have it, having it on the floor. So that's just an upgrade to the shop that, you know, they just keep evolving over time. You run into things that you don't like, so make a change with it. So I think that's going to end the video today. The Harbor Freight blower, I think, is going to work out perfect for my needs. No, it's not mobile anymore, but when I originally made it, it was mobile, worked well, and I found its flaws. It got in the way. The hoses were in the way. So I looked at it and said, there's got to be a better way. So mounted it up here, and I think it's going to work out perfect. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.